hope everyone can hear me really quickly. Could I get a thumbs up if you guys can hear me okay? Thumbs down if you can't hear me at all. Thumbs up if you can hear me. Can you guys hear me okay? Thumbs up. I see some thumbs. Awesome. Great. Well, welcome to Pinot's Palette Live. My name is Brandy. I will be your artist for today. I am here live at the Glenview, Illinois location. Thank you for joining me today. We have this super cute koala painting that we're doing. It's going to be a really fun painting. It has some nice splatter, some cute colors, and overall, I think we're going to have a great time. So really quickly, I just want to run through a couple things. Some of you may or may not be so great with Zoom, and that's what hopefully we're here to help you out. So behind the scenes, she's also been answering some questions. I have Kaylee. Kaylee has been helping us today. So, so she'll be the ones in the chat room. She'll be helping me out answering those questions. And maybe if I didn't catch a question, you can put it in there and she'll have she'll let me know and I can answer it, whichever. So that way, if you don't feel like just calling it out on like just using your microphone, you can just drop it in the chat box and I can answer it that way. Really quickly though, just to make sure that everyone knows how to use that chat box. So I said earlier that I was in Glenview, Illinois. Let me know where you guys are from. There's so many in the chat today. So let me know where you're from and drop that location in that chat box. And let's see, make sure that it's working okay. Oh, see some North Carolina. Raleigh, North Carolina. All right. Cleveland. Lots of places. Ooh. New Jersey, Virginia, awesome. Well, I'm glad you're joining me today because it's kind of cool because we can all be from all over the place and we can come together and do a super fun painting together, which is super awesome. Glad to know that that chat box is working for everyone. So another quick thing before we jump in here. I did hear some questions earlier about it, so I'm just going to go through this really quickly. Since there are so many people in this chat room, the person that is talking, it'll flash, and you want to make sure that you see me so that you don't get too distracted, and you know where you're going with the instructions. If you look at my screen, and there is, in the top right-hand corner of just my screen, there should be 3 little dots. If you click that, a little drop-down menu will come down, and I think there's an option that says something like pin me or pin this person, so that way when you pin me, I'm the only one you will always see. I'll always be on your screen, so that way it doesn't matter who else is talking, I will be the one that you see. If you need some help, ask Kaylee in the comments. She might be able to help you out with that. But that'll make it easier so you don't get lost in all the people because there's so many of us today. Another thing about Zoom is because, again, there's so many of us, whenever I'm giving instructions, you want to make sure that you pretty much stay on mute. That way so that there's no over talking, people miss instructions, and that you can hear me clearly. I want to make sure that everyone can hear okay, there's no extra confusion, and it just makes it a little easier when I'm the only one talking. But I would love to talk to you guys. It'll be so much fun. So whenever we're just hanging out and maybe we're just painting and I don't really have much to say, you guys can, we can all talk to each other and I'll ask questions and you can ask me questions and we're going to have a great time today. I can speak louder? Absolutely. Does that sound any better? Okay, great. I also moved my microphone a little closer to my mouth, so hopefully that works. If you need me to speak louder at any other time, let me know, and I can do that. I can get a lot louder. So, now that I've gone through the quick tips and tricks of Zoom, we are going to jump right into our materials. So really quickly, I hope everyone has a stack of paper towels or something. We're going to be using these to wipe our paintbrushes off when they get dirty. So you want to make sure that you have a good stack, nice and prepared and ready for our paints. My 3 paintbrushes, I'm using 3 paintbrushes today. I have a big one, a medium one, and a small one. You want to make sure that the small one is kind of pointed so that way you can get into those details. So like around the flowers that we'll be doing and some other work. That's probably the most important. The other ones are okay. So I've got a small, a medium, and a large, right? So 3 brushes. And then of course, The most important thing that I think that is necessary when you're painting is your water cup. You want to make sure that you have your water cup because it's going to be probably your best friend while you're painting. So whenever you have a dirty paintbrush, once it gets paint on it, it should go back in that water cup because you want to make sure that the paints don't dry and they'll be easy to clean later. So whenever you're not using your brushes, just plop them back in there and they'll be ready to go the next time that we switch brushes. And then I have a blank paper plate. This is going to be our mixing palette. We'll be mixing a couple colors today, but you may be extra creative and do more than what we do. So we'll see. But that's your mixing palette. And then, of course, our beautiful color palette of colors here. So really quickly, the colors that you should generally have, and your colors may be a little different from mine, and that's completely okay. All of our materials may be a little different, but that's all right. I have a black, a blue, a green, a pink, an orange, red, and lots of white. I have a good amount of white here. If you need me to repeat those, I can. Just let me know. But other than that, I don't have yellow, but you can have yellow if you want to. Absolutely. It came with yellow. Well, do you have red? You can always mix a little bit of red into the yellow, and that'll make it more of an orange, if that's what you're missing. You do have orange? Okay, that's fine. Yellow will work just fine. You'll be good to go. You don't have pink? Well, do you have red? Well, you can mix white and red, and then that makes pink, so you're also good to go. Yeah. Is there any other questions before we get started? No? You said you don't have orange? Is that what I heard? Yeah. That's okay. If you have red, red will work just fine. We can make it work. You'll be fine. Once we get there, for those who have different colors, I can help you guys out and I can instruct you. It'll work. You'll be good. Okay? All right. If there's no other questions, we're ready to jump right in and get started on this koala, okay? Are you guys excited? Yeah? Me too. Okay. First things first, we are going to jump right in with our biggest paintbrush. This first step that we're going to do, it works best if you do this step really, really quickly. And don't even think about it. We're just going to kind of slop the paint up there without even thinking about it, and we're going to do it super quick. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the big paintbrush. Yeah. So we're going to start with the background first. So koala is going to come later. So I'm going to take the big paintbrush. I'm going to dip it straight into the water cup, lots of water. You want to do lots of water on this, and then I'm just going to get a big old glop of white, and I'm just going to slap that color up on my canvas. You want it nice and thin and runny and wet. Yep, you're doing all over the canvas. You're not really painting the canvas, you're just making it wet. So just really slap it up there, get that water running. It's okay if it's dripping. You just want to get the whole canvas wet. What? What about yellow? Okay. So my canvas is nice and wet. Just throw some white up there. And as you're going through this, what you want to do is you want to take a teensy tiny itty bitty little amount of green. You only want to do a little, okay? So now that my canvas is all dripping and wet with white, you want to just get a little bit of green on your paintbrush. I can even show you what mine looks like. There's that much green. Hardly any. What? Nope, this step has to be really quickly and wet, and they're going to go back and forth. You won't be left behind, I promise. So it's really dripping and wet, and you're just picking up, and there's only 2 steps in this, I promise, so it's not any more than this. So since my canvas is nice and wet, I just took a little bit of that green and I'm doing the letter X in my wet, drippy white background all over the canvas. X's, like slashing all over. And of course, you could add more white. But the trick to this is, like I said, doing it really quick and having it the whole canvas wet. Yep, what's up? Okay. Yes. So really quickly, for those who I may be moving a little too quick with, so all I did is this background, you want it to be really wet and runny. So I dipped my whole big brush right into the water cup, got a big old glop of white. You can even double dip it in water if you want to make it thinner. And I just slashed that wet watery white up there, and it was dripping, which is good. You just wanted it to be really wet. And while the canvas is still wet, I took an itsy bitsy little bit of green, just a little bit, because you want it to be kind of like a fluffy, soft green in the background. And I'm just doing X's all over my canvas. So even if you look at mine, you can barely see some of the green. That's perfect. It's just supposed to be some nice texture in the background. And you can go back and add a little bit of white. Oh, sorry. A little bit of white back and forth. And just a little bit of green wherever you'd like, but you want to make sure that your canvas stays nice and damp for this step. If your paint is like really thick and it's like kind of chunky on your canvas, you need more water. So just kind of dip your whole brush right into that water cup and just slap that paint on there, okay? This will be the only step that was quick like that, I promise. So I'm just doing those X's and brush strokes.
Do we do the whole thing?
Yep, we're doing the whole background. No. So, I mean, kind of. So, like, if you just have done, like, all the white that I've been saying that you do, and then get a little bit, look, I can even show you. Oop, that'll be too much. But a little bit of green. See, that's all I have on my brush. A little bit of green on your brush, and then just do these X's all over your canvas and blend them in. That's all you need. And then you can add some more white as well. It's a nice, soft wash in your background. Okay. Yes, you should. Good question. Yep, you want to make sure that brush goes in there every time that you're done. And I got a little bit of blue. I know you guys probably can't see it, but there's a little teeny tiny bit of blue on my canvas. That's okay. It's just a part of the background. The very last step we do is a cool splatter anyway, so you won't ever be able to see it. So if you guys get a little extra color in the background, that's okay. What? Oh, yeah, absolutely. Okay. So another thing that I want you guys to check your canvases for, if you have any areas on your canvas that's really thick with paint, so there's like a ripple or something, I want you to take your brush and smooth that out. I don't want any thick chunks on your canvas. Or or like maybe because we've been using so much water, some of the spots are a little drippy. Just take your brush and just sweep right over that spot. Move it around so you don't have any drips on your canvas. So you have this nice soft background. Also, if you want to paint the edges of your canvas, you can paint the edges as well. Painting the edges just makes it look a little bit more finished. It's not necessary, but it does make it look a little more finished. Ooh, that sounds pretty. That's okay though. You could make your background. It's just going to be your background. You can make it however you'd like it. It's just kind of like a fluffy abstract background anyway. So there's no like right or wrong way. What? Ooh. That sounds pretty too. So I'm just going to rotate my canvas real quick so I can get my edges. Don't mind me. I'll move it back once I'm done here. You said you ran out of green? Is that what you said? I'm still not sure what you said. You may need to, if that was a question, you may need to put it in the chat box for us because I didn't quite catch it. Oh, well, we've just gotten started, so the break won't be for a couple of minutes. Are you ready to take a break already? The fun just started. Now, we have to have a drying break in a bit. And I'll let you know once we get there. Yes. Okay.
Your canvas just looks white to me.
Yeah, that's okay. It's very, there's some darker green areas here. You can barely see it, and that's okay. You just wanted a really light color. You didn't want it to be too dark, unless that's what you wanted, which is fine too. It's fun to be creative, you know. It's your painting. Make it your own. No, no, we don't have to wait for it to dry for this next step. Yeah, I moved it. Oh, okay. So when we start doing this koala, I just want to let you guys know that this koala is very very fluffy. He's not really realistic. He's just kind of fun. And when we do this, you don't have to worry about how perfect the lines are and our background once we start to draw on him or her. The background is still going to be a little wet, and that's completely okay. This koala is just designed to be almost kind of like a fun watercolor. So work with the paint, have fun with it. Don't worry about it being so perfect. And we'll work with as we go along to the steps. So I'm going to go ahead and start on the koala's body. Oh, that's fine. If your background is dry, that you're ahead of the game. If it's not, like mine isn't completely dry, that's okay too. Like I said, this next step is pretty it's pretty loose cuz we're going to sketch our koala, okay? So, since we're sketching, I'm going to pick up that pointed paintbrush, the pointed small paintbrush, and we're going to sketch the body, okay? So I'm going to take this small brush, I'm going to dip it in the water, and I'm just going to get a little bit of blue. You don't need you don't need too much, just a little because it's just a sketch. So first things first, we're going to draw this big circle head. I'm going to find the middle of my canvas, right? The middle of my canvas. I'm going to start from the top of the middle, and the head is about 2 hands down from the top. Okay? So I'm measuring about 2 hands down, and I'm just going to kind of put a little line there cuz that's about where the top of my head is. Okay? So I put a little dot here in blue. And then I know some of you guys may probably have smaller hands than mine. I have very big hands. So I'm sure you'll have to draw it bigger. But for me, it's about I'm stretching my fingers as far as they'll go. And it's about a very big hand spread wide. And that's about the size of my koala head. So I'm just going to kind of sketch the 4 sides of my circle. And maybe you have something that you've traced, you can trace, that's fine too. But again, this is just a sketch. Don't worry about it being so perfect. And if you have to redraw it, that's completely okay too, because we're going to color it anyway. So I've got my big old koala head. Right? Okay. How are you guys doing? Are you guys doing okay? All right. I don't hear any complaints, so I'm going to assume you guys are doing awesome.
I'm doing fine.
Great. Thank you for the answer. Now I'm so reassured. Thank you. Okay. So now that we've got our big old circle, got our big circle head, we're going to draw the body. So the body, if you measure from the bottom corner here, it's about 4 fingers. So if you have 4 fingers, it's about 3 or 4 fingers from each corner. So I'm just putting about 4 fingers here, and I'm just going to put a little dot there, right? I don't know if you guys can even see that. There's a little dot there. Then I'm going to measure 4 fingers on the other side, and then I'm going to put a little dot right there. So now I have an idea of where I'm drawing my body shape. I actually think my koala head's a little too small, so I'm going to make it a little bigger. Yeah. So I measured about 4 fingers in each corner. So I put a 4 finger on the bottom, each corner of the bottom. And then I did a little measured dot on each side. So the bottom right and the bottom left. And I just put a little dot. Mm-hmm. You want to make sure that your koala head is a good big size, because that's going to be your focal point, right? Is your cute koala face. So if you got too of a small one, you might want to make it a little bit bigger. I think that's good enough for mine. But so now that we have the bottom measured, we're going to start kind of on the sides of the neck of the koala, and we're going to draw a line that's going to curve and come down and meet those lines on the bottom. So I'm going to start over here.
Is it okay if our koala's outline isn't a really thin line?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, this koala is very fun. It's not like a realistic, painting of a koala. It's not super perfect or anything. So you can just have fun with it. And like especially if you like mess up on the koala, we're either going to paint over it, and if you like when we color him in, or you can just like turn it into fur, make him super fluffy, right? Another thing I should have said before is wherever you put the lines at for the body on the circle of the neck, you kind of want to make sure that they're in the same spot, right? You don't want the shoulders to be kind of lopsided. So I'm just kind of measuring where I put my lines so that he's got not lopsided shoulders. Okay. Yeah, that looks about right. Okay. So now we've got our body and our head. And the last step, of course, are those big old ears. So the ears are going to start kind of smaller. And then when you draw them, they're going to go wide, right? So they're going to start small and then go wide. Now what you shouldn't do is you don't want to draw them so big that they go off the page, because he's got some fluffy fur on his ears. So you want to come almost all the way over, but not quite. So I'm just going to, remember, start small. And you can even draw the base first. So if I look where I want my ears to start, I'm just going to kind of draw. And you want to make sure, again, the ears are kind of on the same like plane, I guess, because you don't want the ears to be lopsided. So I'm just starting with 4 dots, one on each side, lining up my ears. And then when you draw them outward and then inward. So he's got these. How many what? I don't have a finger measurement, but mine are probably going to be about the whole hand, my whole hand. Yeah. So let's see here. There we go. As long as they're even, that's probably what's most important here. So if you have to make one, yeah, I mean, like if you have to make the other ear like one ear, that's fine. So right now he kind of looks like an elephant without a trunk, right? This big O ears. Yeah, that's okay. I was just kind of warning you guys so that you had room for the hair. If you did, that's okay. It's not the end of the world, I promise. I'm sure you guys are doing super awesome. Yeah? That's good. Yeah, the nose is my favorite part too. So we're actually not going to draw the face yet. I'm just making sure that my ears are even. And they still look a little off, but they'll do. Okay. So got the nice ears. Okay. Now, for this next step that we're going to do is you don't have to clean off your brush. I'm still using that small paintbrush. And if you remember from the original painting, how if you can see how he has kind of like some ear drips. You can do these drips in like green or blue, however color that you'd like. What I'm actually going to do though is I'm going to take my small paintbrush. I'm going to dip it in some water and I'm going to double dip. So I'm going to take my brush and go plop in the blue and then plop in the green. And then I'm going to use that paper plate and I'm just going to tap it onto that paper plate. Plop in the blue, plop in the green, tap it on my paper plate. So I have a little bit of paint on my plate. And then I'm going to take a bunch of water and just water that color down. So you want it to be like a nice thin consistency because we're going to kind of do a watercolor, right? So again, I'll repeat what I did. Is I took my small paintbrush and I just tapped it in the blue, I tapped it in the green, and then I tapped it on my paper plate here, and then I just got a bunch of water and watered it down. Now, when we do these drips, the drips can be kind of tricky. Yeah, it should be. You that means you're doing it right. What? Both? So you wanted blue and green on the brush, and then you tapped it on the plate, and then you added water to the plate to water down the color. So now it's like a watercolor. So this dripping part can be a little tricky. So if it doesn't drip, then that means that you need more water, right? So I'm just going to take that watery color that we have, and I'm going to find out where I want the drip on my ears. We're going to do the drips on the ears. And then I'm just going to take my brush, and if you look at the angle, my brush is up and down because it'll drip downwards, right? And I'm just going to tap, 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 tap over and over again in the same spot, and it'll drip, right? And I'm going to do it again. Tap, 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 tap over and over in the same spot so that it drips. Again, if it's not dripping, it's because you need a little more water. If it's when the drip is dripping and it doesn't look like there's a like color in it, like it looks just like water, add some more paint to your color. If anyone is having difficulty with this, let me know. This step can be kind of tricky. Okay. So is it not running because you don't have enough water? It doesn't go that far? Okay. So there are two things that you can do. So like this one over here, you can either like where it stops, you can start tapping where it stopped, and so it gives it some more water so it'll keep running. Yeah, try that one first. So wherever it stops, and if you want it to go further, just do like what you've been doing, exactly where it stopped. Tapping, tapping, and tapping. And hopefully that'll help it run. See, like this one over here, I want it to go a little further. So I'm just going to give it a little more paint so that it'll drip a little farther. Yeah, if you want to. That'll be fun. What color are you thinking of using? Ooh, that yellow will be pretty. Okay. So now that we've done the drippy part. All right. Are you guys ready to paint the body now? No? No? Okay. I'm going to hang out here for like a minute or two, and then we're going to jump to our first color mixture. So if you're here with me and you're ready to go, you can clean off that big paintbrush. You can get it nice and clean because that'll be the brush that we use. Right after we paint the body, we have a break. Mm-hmm.
The yellow and black turned out to be a dark greenish color.
That they probably mixed together, right? Yeah. Well, you can always cover it when we do splatter. You can focus like splatter in that area. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and jump to that body. So make sure that your big paintbrush is nice and clean. I'm using the big paintbrush, and we're going to go ahead and do that first mixture. So our first mixture, like I said, is going to be the color of the panda body, right? So our first mixture is going to be 2 scoops of blue and 2 scoops of white. And we'll put that up here on the screen in just a minute. But the body color, so I took 2 big O scoops with my brush. I did 2 big scoops, plopped it on my mixing plate, and then of blue, and then I did 2 big scoops of white and put it on my mixing plate. So you should have this nice soft baby blue color. This is the color I'm using. So 2 blue and 2 white. And if you feel like it's too dark, you can add an extra scoop of white. Make it the shade of blue that you want. Once you have this color, we're going to color the whole head. Don't do the body yet. Just don't do the body yet. We're just going to start with the head first. The head and the ears. I'm using the biggest one. So I'm painting in the whole head and in the ears, and we'll just hang out on the body. We're not going to do the body just yet.
How do you make that light color?
Yeah, so the color mixture is on the screen, but it's 2 blue and 2 white. Mm-hmm. If your blue is a little darker and you want it to be lighter, you can always try adding a little more white. If you like it darker, that's okay too. Now, when you're painting this, you don't have to worry so much about completely covering like the outline. You can leave some of the outline showing if you want. And also because the fur is like you flick the fur out and it makes him fluffy. If you get a little outside of that line, that's okay too. That works. We're gonna make our koalas nice and fluffy and furry, so it's not a problem. So again, don't do the body just yet. We're just focusing on that big head and those cute little ears. Okay. Another thing you want to make sure when you're painting your body, you want to make sure that there's no thick areas of paint. So you don't want any ripples or any chunks. You want to make sure that the paint is nice and flat. That way it'll dry quickly, and when we go to do those cute facial features, it'll be dry. So if you have any of those lumps, just kind of smooth them out. Make it nice and soft, nice and smooth, right? It'll save you some trouble in the long run. What? Okay. Did you have a question? The brush that clean it off. You can. So if you'd like to, you can. So for the next step, we can either use the big paintbrush or you can use that smaller paintbrush, whichever one that you feel most comfortable with. Maybe you might start with the big one because there's already paint on it and see how that does. It depends on the fluffiness of the fur, if you like how it looks or not. So since like I said, I already have paint on this big brush. I'm just going to start with it first. Now that I have the whole head and the ears colored, I'm going to take the same color and I'm just going to focus on the sides of my koala, right? And I'm just going to kind of flick my brush inward all along those edges. So I'm kind of painting and flicking. So if you kind of look, it kind of has like arms, right? And like I said, if you don't like how the fur looks, switch to that medium-sized brush. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm just flicking that fur all the way down. And you don't have to go all the way to the neck. You can leave a little spot. Because if you look in the original, he has a little bit of white. So I'm just... You didn't get... Say that one more time? Oh. Oh, you're out of white. Well, to make some more of that color, you're going to need some more white. Yeah, maybe instead of the light blue. Well, maybe if maybe if you have some like extra on the plates, your mixing plate, maybe you can add some water to that color and maybe get some of that extra paint off. If not, then you may just have to have darker blue arms. Okay, so I'm just flicking out that fur. It's in a few minutes. If you need to go on break now, you can. If you're done, yeah. Yeah, this was our last step before we waited for a few minutes. So if you're ready, just put your dirty brushes in your water cup and you can take a break if you need it, cuz we're going to take a break in just a minute here. Yeah. So I'm just kind of looking at my koala arms and I'm trying to make them even. I don't want one to be like super tiny than the other. That looks about right. Ooh, I love your ears. Yeah, looks good. Good job. Okay, so. Oh, yeah, that looks good too. Good job. I don't think so either. Okay, so like I said, that we're just going to take a short break. We're just going to let our colors dry. So hopefully you've gotten to a finishing stopping point. Do I like yours? Let me see it. Hang on, we're looking for you. Are you holding it up? Oh, I love it. What color is the ear drip that you did? Did you do a red one? Ooh, it looks good. Okay, so for the break is going to be probably about 5 to 8 minutes. Okay. You want to make sure that you stop painting your koala during this break. That's very important because we want to make sure that everything is dry so that we can paint on top of it. So if you're not quite done, hurry up and finish to a drying point so that we can hang out. I'm gonna, so I'll be back in about 5 to 8 minutes, okay? If you need to clean your brushes, get fresh water, now would be a good time for that. If you have any other questions you can put them in like the chat box and me or Kaylee will respond to them that way. But just hang out, relax, maybe get some water or something, and I'll be back in like 5 to 8 minutes, okay, guys? Hi guys, I'm back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Yeah. So we had thrown up our kids camp weekend, or our last week of kids camp up on the screen. Hopefully, you guys have been having an awesome time with me and some of our other instructors at our other location. We do have 1 week left, so if you haven't seen it, that would be super awesome for you to check out. Oh. Yeah, so the last week is Nature Week, so we have some cute nature-themed ones coming up. I know I'm teaching one with a cool sunset on a bag. That one's going to be lots of fun. Check us out, though, because I hope to see you guys again soon. So, now that we have had time for our koala, I keep wanting to call it a panda. I don't know why. But our koala has had time to dry. We're going to jump right into our ear mixture, okay? Yeah, what's up? We don't have another break, so that's the only one we have, okay? So I am going to take our medium paintbrush, and we are going to mix our ear color. So I'm going to take 2 scoops of white and put it on our mixing plate right on top of each other. 1, 2. And then it's going to be just a touch of red. We want it to be a nice soft pink. So just a little bit of red. You don't need too much. A little goes the medium one. So we're just using a little bit of red so we have a nice soft pink. A little goes a really long way, so just start with a teeny tiny bit. So 2 scoops of white and a touch of red, right? For anyone who's...
Which brush are we using?
The medium one.
The big one?
The medium one. So the medium. If you only have 2 brushes, use the bigger of the 2.
It would be the long one.
I did you say you only have 2 brushes? Is that what you would? I don't know what length it is, but this is what mine looks like. So if you need to see what mine looks like, that's what mine is. You already have a pink? I have a pink too, but you want to mix another pink because we're going to use that pink later. So do 2 scoops of white and a touch of red, and this is going to be a different color pink, okay? This is going to be a soft pink, and this is going to be the ear, the inside of the ears. So I'm going to start right here, the edge of my head. And I'm just going, do not go all the way to the ear. You don't want to go all the way to the ear. So I'm just going to kind of leave a little space around on the outside. And then I'm going to paint the inside of that ear. Okay. Then you want to do the same to the other ear. Remember, leave a little space or on the outside of that ear because the whole ear isn't pink. If you'd like, actually, I'll hang on to that in a minute. So I'm just going to paint the inside of my ear pink. And this little section right here doesn't have to be perfect because the hair is going over it. So we're just painting the ears. So what I'd say is take another scoop of white, put it on top of your pink, and then take a touch more of red and mix the color again. Adding more white to that color will thicken it so that you don't see the blue. That could mean that you just got a little too much water in it. Okay. So while your ears are still wet, so they're nice and wet because we just painted them, I'm not cleaning my brush off. I'm going to take, so it still has pink on my brush, I'm going to take a little bit more red, just a little. So if you see, I just did a little bit more red on the tip there, just a teeny tiny bit. And we're just going to kind of flick this red along the top half of our ears. And I'm just kind of blending it in so it's just a nicer hue right along the top half of my ear. So your pink, you want your pink still to be wet so it blends. If you need to add more pink to it, you can. Just make sure you use a little, because a little goes a very long way. Yeah. Okay. So try a little bit more red. The red should show in the pink. So just take a little bit more red and blend it and try that. Yeah, it's better to add a little bit at a time than getting too much, because then it can be a little hard to fix it, right? So a little is better than too much, or not enough, I guess. Okay. So there's my pink tips. Yeah. I mean, you can, but the pink that I think you should have gotten is kind of like a neon color. So it's not like a natural, like inside a dog's mouth, you have that nice pink tongue, or inside ears of animals, there's a soft pink. So that pink that you have is a little, it's less realistic, I guess. But if you would like to use that pink, you can. I wouldn't recommend it, but it's your painting. You absolutely can use it. Great. It sounds like you made it your own, which is exactly what you should be doing. Good job. Good job, guys. Orange? How did you get orange out of pink? Did you use the orange paint? Oh, well, you should have used red and white. Red. Are you trying to fix it? Do you not like how it looks? Or were you just telling? Oh, okay. Yeah, that's very possible. Um, okay, guys. So we are now we have used all three of our paintbrushes, right? So you want to make sure this is a brush check. You want to make sure that all your dirty brushes are in your water cup. You want to make sure that that paint doesn't get hard. So make sure they're all hanging out in that water cup. Now we're going to do the fun part, right? We're going to, I guess the whole painting is fun, but we're going to add. Ooh, we're going to add the face, like the eyes and the nose and the mouth. So we're going to use the small paintbrush. Make sure it's nice and clean. And I'm tapping it off of my paper towel because I don't want it too runny. Okay. We're using the smallest paintbrush. Mm-hmm. And now what we're going to do is we're just going to go in. We're just going to kind of sketch with the blue. So the original blue, not the one we mixed for the body. So that dark blue. I'm just using a little bit of that blue, and we're going to draw the nose first. So the nose isn't in the middle of the head, right? It's a little further down. So I'm going to kind of find where I want the bottom of my nose first. So consider where the mouth is. Make sure you have enough room for the mouth. This is good. Yep, we're using the original dark blue color. Okay, so this is where I want the bottom of my nose to be. I think my head turned out to be a little small, but that's okay. And then this is the smallest brush. When all these details, you want to use the smallest brush, right? So I drew the bottom of my nose. And then I'm going to kind of figure out where I want the top of my nose. Probably about right here. And then I'm going to see how I did the two little dots. And then I'm going to connect them. So we're drawing a big oval for his nose. Also, another thing I didn't mention, if you're struggling, a good way to do this is make sure that you're holding your brush like you would a pencil. So I like to hold it at the very end. My fingers are just on the metal part here, and that gives you the most control over your brush, right? So I'm just drawing a big old oval for his nose in that dark blue color. And then you paint it in that dark blue. Mm-hmm. And just paint it in that dark blue. Again, you want to make sure that there aren't any like chunks of paint. Make sure it's nice and flat and even. You also want to make sure that both the top and the bottom of the nose is like pretty even. You don't want it to be like skinny on one side and bigger on the end like a triangle. It's a nice big oval. Okay. Now that we have our big old nose, and we've colored it in, we are going to draw our eyes next. Now the eyes are about the size of a quarter, but of course you want to make sure that the eyes are kind of like they fit the shape of your head, right? So maybe you need to make them a little bigger, a little smaller, but I'm going to draw mine about the size of a quarter. And so you just kind of want to find where they go. And again, they're kind of like, if you're looking at the original painting, they're kind of like not quite at the top of the nose. They're kind of down a little, right? So koala faces are kind of funny because they're not even with the top of their nose. So for me, I'm looking at the top of my nose, my koala nose, and I'm coming over a little, and then I'm kind of coming down so that the nose is a little higher.
What color did you draw the circle for the eyes with?
We're still using whites. So we're just drawing, not whites, we're using blue. Yeah, we're still using blue. I don't know why I said white. We're just kind of outlining. So you don't want to color these eyes in, but you do want to outline them in blue. Nope. Nope. They did it the same way we did. Good question though. So you just want to make sure your eyes are the same height and the same size. And this is just that first step. I think one eye is bigger. Nope, that looks good. Okay. And then once we've got our general eye shape, looks different in the camera. It's good enough. So once we've got our general eye shape, we're going to add the little smiley face mouth. So I'm just going to kind of draw the bottom of where I want it first. Right here. See, it looks like he has a teeny tiny smile. And then I'm just going to kind of come up on the sides just a little. So he's got a big old smile. In blue. Okay. Okay. How are you guys' faces coming out? Are they cute? Good. Okay. So, since we're still using blue, we are going to continue using that small paintbrush, and we're going to continue using that dark blue, and we're going to begin to outline and add some dimension and fluffy fur to our koala. Okay? So to start with, I'm going to start over here on the left because I want to. So I'm just going to start at the top of where the neck is, and I'm just going to begin flicking out some fur. And I'm kind of creating a new outline. I'm giving him some nice furry flicks. We're still using the same small brush and the same blue. So we're just making some fur along the outside. Okay. So I'm just starting with the outside first. And then you add some fur to the outside on the other side. Giving our koala some nice fluffy texture. Lots of fun, lots of movement. Okay. And then you can add some fur to the inside here. And to do this, they're kind of just like scribbles. So yeah, they're just kind of scribbles. You can do little half triangles if you'd like. I'm really just scribbling my brush. You can do as many or a little as you'd like, little dashes. They're just little furry scribbles, right? Is he looking cute? Okay. And then on the edge here, the edge where like his little arms are coming in, then we're going to add some dark blue lines there as well, right? Just kind of like we did to the outline. So I'm doing it a little differently. What I'm actually doing is I'm kind of zigzagging, but it's not all connected. So on some of the brush strokes, I'm kind of adding some like these little zigzags here. Don't make this perfect, right? So yeah, we're just adding zigzags and some dimension to our fur. Yeah, I mean we're gonna color in the eyes anyway, so you might be able to fix it then if it's bothering you. But yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I've just added I've just added some fluffy fur to my koala, right? It's looking cute, huh? You guys, is koala looking cute? Good, good. Yeah. So I mean, like now we're just kind of working on that fluffy fur throughout kind of the body. So especially at if you're looking at the original painting, right? If you're looking at her or their face, you can see how they've got some fluffy fur around the ears too. So, if you I'm starting on the ears. We're doing the same thing that we've been doing, so it's nothing different. Uh I'm starting at the bottom of the ear and I'm just kind of zigzagging and giving them some fluffy blue pieces coming off the ear. And I'm adding it to the top of the ear and, just fluffing them up. Have fun with the fur, you know? Give them some nice fuzz.
I made mine look
Kind of creepy? Is that what you said? You can also add a little bit to he kind of looks like I don't know if you guys know what sideburns are, but it kind of looks like he has some sideburns going on. And then he has like a darker neck. So I'm just using this blue and I'm outlining the neck. Not quite. Okay. So I'm just going around the face, adding in that fur, going around the ears.
Are we going to do white on the belly?
We will eventually, yes.
I'm so tired. I can't wait to take a nap.
Me too. I feel that. Naps are always fun, right? And then I'm just going to outline the head, the forehead. Okay. And then you can add some like some fur inside the ears and on the face too. So just like we've been doing. So I'm just going to add some scribbles and some flicks just kind of inside the ears and the face.
Can you slow down, please?
It's all the same technique. So I haven't moved on or anything. It's we're just adding fur to the body.
Excuse me.
Yeah?
Do you have to put fur around the neck?
If you'd like to, but I didn't. I just kind of outlined the bottom of the neck and the chin. So I didn't put any fur. But if you want to, you definitely can. He does have a little cheek fuzz. Just a little. With the what? We do have a couple different colors coming up. Yes, absolutely. Okay. I have to keep going. It's over at 2. Do you want to leave me that badly? Is this not relaxing? Oh, you're in a different time zone. How cool is that? Okay, so I have to keep it moving so that we make sure that we have plenty of time for all of the steps because we have several steps left. Okay, um, so I'll repeat it as many times as I need to if you need me to. So don't worry, I won't let you get left behind. So for those of you who are ready and you're rearing to go, we're going to continue with that teeny tiny small paintbrush. Make sure it's nice and clean. So I'm starting with a clean small paintbrush, and we're just going to start with some white details. Okay, so we're just going to go right into the white. So clean paintbrush. I'm going in with the white. First thing we're going to start with is those fluffy inside furry ear hair. So I'm going to start right here along where the back side of the ear, and I'm just going to flick these really long brush strokes of white all inside those ears. You want to make them going different lengths. You don't want to make them all the same. I'd recommend looking at the original painting to see how they did it. That'll help you get an idea the best way to do it. You can make some long ones, that one's really long. Some shorter ones, but you want to do it to both inside ears, right? So add lots of these ear hair inside out. Ooh, can't quite hear you guys, so yeah. All right. So we're just working on the white details. So I just kind of added those those long ear fur. Now I'm going to add some white fur kind of throughout the face or wherever you would like to have some white fur at. So he has a lot of white around his kind of chin area or her. And then I'm going to do a couple of scribbles in white. And then he has kind of like these big kind of gloppy dots, dash circle shapes down here in the fur. He has like these, like, they're not really circles, but he has like some dots, circle-y, abstract shapes down in the fur. They're bigger than like what's on his body. So I'm just kind of doing this dashing technique where they're just kind of grouped together. It's just giving dimension to the fur, so it's just kind of however you'd like. Whatever you're feeling, right? Just kind of wherever you'd like to add some dimension. So we're going to hang out on white for a bit. So I've just been adding white to the hair, wherever I feel like it. And then I'm also going to use this color, as you can tell, to color in some of the body parts, right? So we're going to start by giving our eyes a nice flat coat of white. Now you don't have to color the inside because we're going to cover it with black. But it is important to get most of the outside. So we're just laying a nice flat coat for our eye color to go on. If you want to color the whole eye, go for it. Feel free. Well, because of time's sake, I've got to keep going. But after each of this class, if you need to, you could always rewind it and watch the video. So that works too. But I can always help you as I'm going along. Because we still got a lot of steps left. A good handful of like details. And that flower might be a little tricky. So I've added some white eyes. Like I said, the black pupils are going to be in the middle, so you don't have to cover the whole eye. And then I'm going to do the white mouth. Again, we're still using that small paintbrush and white.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
Is it okay if the white hair on the koala is a little bit fluffy?
Yeah, no, that's great. It'll probably just make him look fluffier. So now I'm just kind of covering in his white mouth. You want to leave kind of like that dark blue line there because it kind of like shapes the mouth. He looks crazy or great? Crazy? Well, hopefully after we add in like the eyes will definitely make him. Because look at mine. Mine looks like he's creepy smiling. So it's okay. Once we add in those facial features and those big old eyes, it'll make him look a little less crazy probably. So I just covered in his little mouth here with white, right? Now without cleaning off my brush, maybe you still have some pink left. Mine is actually dry. I'm just going to take the tip of my paintbrush and just get a itty bitty bit amount of red. And I'm just going to kind of blend the red in along the top half of his mouth. Just the top. So the white mouth should be a little wet still. And I'm just kind of blending in a little pink along this, just the top. If you need more white, you can pick up more white. But it just gives them a little dimension there along that top half there. So again, I'll repeat that. So what I did is, of course, I just painted his mouth white. And while that white is wet, without cleaning my brush off, I just picked up a little bit of red to make a soft pink, and I blended it along the top half of his mouth. If you look at the original painting, you can definitely see it. You probably can't even see that detail from my painting. It's just a soft little shade, right? Okay. And then, so if you notice all of the steps that we've been doing, they're all white, right? So they're all white. Yeah, so all the steps are white. So I'm just going to switch to the medium-sized brush. I'm making sure it's nice and clean. I don't want any pink on my brush. I'm going to go right in with the white, and I'm going to paint his whole tummy. Okay, so I'm using the medium-sized brush, and I'm just going in with some white, and I'm just going to fill in that middle space of his tummy. So I know that this area is kind of jagged right here, so I'm just going to kind of use the skinny side of my brush here, and I'm just going to kind of flick it in between the hairs. It's okay if it kind of covers. If it doesn't kind of cover, that's all right, because fur is fluffy and it's layered and they mix in with each other anyway. So it's no worry. You don't have to be so particular about it. Just have fun with it. You just kind of like really want to focus on the middle here, because that's where most of that green is. And I'm making sure that I'm getting nice and close to that neckline, and then continuing to flick it either which way into the fur as I go down. Right? And flicking on the same on the other side. And then continuing as I go down. If for whatever reason, I guess you add too much white, once this layer dries, you can always go back over like these edges here, add more blue. That's always, that works, you know? Okay. So I've covered the white on his tummy. And then I'm going to switch back to the smaller paintbrush. Make sure it's nice and clean. Back to the small one, right? Yeah, we can do this. So switch to the smaller paintbrush, and then we're kind of mixing a color, kind of not. It depends on what color you want. But the koala's eyes are kind of like an orangey brown. So if you want to take your small brush and just kind of get some orange, and depending on how you'd like, you can get a touch of black and mix it in. I would kind of play around with the color on your plate to see how brown or how orangey that you would like it. See what you're feeling. And of course, you can always do your eyes a completely different color. But I've gotten kind of like a soft orangey brown here. Again, I just picked up some orange and just kind of mixed some black until I was satisfied with it. Just maybe a couple little dabs. You only need a little because the black goes a really long way, right? And then we're just going to paint the outline of the eyes. You can paint as much of the eye as you would like, because that inside is going to be that big pupil, right? So it's going to cover anyway. But we did that base coat of white so that this color will pop. Yeah. So I'm just kind of following along. And again, you don't have to like completely cover the outline. Like you can still see some of my blue and white outline, which is fine. Because this koala is kind of sketchy. It's a little messy. So it goes with the aesthetic of the style, right? there's my koala eyes. And then I'm going to take that brush. I'm going to clean it off nice and clean. You don't want any of this dark color on there. I'm wiping it off with my paper towel to make sure I get that color off. And then I'm just going to take just a little bit. You don't need too much. I'm not like dipping it in my brush either. I'm just kind of coating my brush so I don't have like a glop on my brush. And then I'm just going to start by doing like a sweep along the top half right of his nose. So just kind of like a little dash there. If you'd like to soften that, you can clean your brush off of the white and get a little bit of that dark blue, the original color that we had, and just kind of blend it in a little and pull it around and soften it. Right? Kind of softens that color. So again, I cleaned my brush off and I added a touch of that dark blue just to soften that color a little. You don't have to do that, of course, if you don't want to. And then clean it off again. Make sure you're starting nice and fresh. You don't want this white to be dirty. So still small paintbrush. I'm taking some white. Again, not a glop, so I just kind of coated my brush. I'm not getting like a scoop of my brush. And we're just going to do kind of like this soft white outline around the eye. A good way to do this is to kind of less is more. If you get a little of the brown eye color, and that's okay, just stop painting. Clean your brush off and then go in with some white. Because if you don't clean it off, then you're just going to drag it. So again, on the right eye, going around. Right. Looks mighty funny without his pupils. Okay. So now that we have added the white detail to the nose and around the eyes, and we've finished up the white detail. Another thing, you may need to do another white layer in his tummy if you had too much green showing through. You can always do that once the white dries. That's perfectly fine, but of course you want to make sure that the white actually dries, because it'll just blend it if it's not dry. So you can layer on those acrylics with every dry step, right? Okay, so yeah, for the most part, I'm going to continue with the eye work. If yours is a little wet, I think it should be okay, especially since it's black. Starting nice and clean again on my my small paintbrush with black. We're to go in and add those black pupils. Okay. Nice and big. You can make the pupils as big as or small as you want. But I think what's important is making sure that the pupils are like in the same place and overall the same size of both eyes. Because if they're not, then you might kind of get one that's looking a little lazy-eyed or kind of crazy looking, unless that's the look you're going for, which is okay. You just want to kind of make sure that these pupils are pretty much the same in both eyes. There we go. Okay. All right. So we're going to let those dry a bit, and then we will come back to them later. We're still continuing with that small paintbrush. So I'm cleaning it off, starting nice and fresh. I don't want any more black. I don't want any black on my brush. So I'm just kind of tapping it. I still have black. Yeah, so I mean tapping it on the paper towel, make sure that you get all the color out, because you want to make sure that you don't have any of that black, right? So now we're going to jump right onto those little flower leafy petal bits, right? So there are a couple different colors that we're going to use. We're not really mixing anything, more like kind of double dipping into the colors. So what I'm going to start with is we're going to start with those little petals first. So clean brush, right? We're still using the small paintbrush. And we are going to double dip into the red and the orange. So I'm just going to take my color palette and I'm going to double dip. Get a little orange, a little red. And we're going to start by drawing that leaf. So I'm going to start, you want to kind of look to see where the two flowers are placed within the ear. So the leaf kind of starts over a little bit, so that there's enough room for another flower right here in the corner. So I'm going to scoot over a little, and then I'm just going to start by drawing my first big leaf straight up. So again, I double dipped into orange and red. So we kind of have this warm color that we're doing here. So I'm going to draw it straight up. And again, the best way to do this is if you're holding your brush like you would your pencil, and most of the other painting should be dry. So I'm just coming up. So I'm supporting my hand on the canvas because it's dry. Just slowly coming up. And then I'm just going to kind of flick it over, right? Because that's going to be our longest leaf. And then I'm going to come down a little, curve it over, and then continue the flick upwards. And then, of course, you want to color that in. Again, we're double dipping into orange and red. So every time you get more color, you just double dip. If it's more comfortable for you to mix a color, feel free to. But this is just like really messy. It's kind of a good technique. If it's a little streaky of like orange and red, it just gives it some more dimension. And plus, this is just a base color. Because as you can tell, we're going to go over it with a pretty green, right? Okay. So there's one big leaf, and then of course there's another leaf right below here. It's not directly on the head, but it kind of comes up and over, nice and flick, like the first one, and then you just kind of come down into a thick triangle. So the shape looks like that, right? And then you just color that one in as well. And because we're going to cover this, you want to make sure that the color is nice and flat. You don't want any like really thick areas. No wrinkles. You want it to dry fairly quickly. And then the other side, they're like baby buds, right? They're not quite full leaves. So this first one, they're off of the same stick here. This first one kind of curls into that ear there. And they're kind of shaped like teardrops. So they're kind of pointy, and then they get bigger on the end. And then there's another one there that just goes the opposite direction. And it's again, like another teardrop. Okay, so we got 2 there. And then there's a longer piece that kind of like comes up to meet the other leaf with like more of these little teardrop budlets. This one comes up, and then it has three little pieces. So I'm just going to draw the middle one first. So there's the middle one, and then there's a little one off to the right and the left. So there's a itty bitty bud here, and then there's a little one on the other side too. Okay. So there's our little or leafy flower, right? Okay, so then I just cleaned my brush off. So we're starting nice and clean again. And then we're going to kind of double dip again, just like we've been doing for our flowers. So I'm going to start by, if you have any of that original pink that we mixed, it was just like white, like a scoop of white and a touch of red. We used it for the ears. If you have any of that pink left, we're going to use it. If you don't, you can mix some more. Again, I just did a scoop of white with a touch of red, or you can just make a new pink, whatever shade you'd like. This is just going to be kind of like that base coat. And these flowers are kind of like half circles with like bursts off the sides, right? So our first one is kind of in this little groove right here. And again, like I said, this is just kind of a base coat. Sorry, I keep moving this and like holding it here. So it's a little cup here. And so I drew like half a circle, and then when I'm doing the top, I'm just using the small brush and I'm just flicking it upwards. And the more you flick it, the skinnier those little pieces, those petals will be. And it's okay if like the little branch right here isn't quite dry and you get some orange in it. That's okay. You're going to be using a bunch of different colors anyway. Right? And then there's another little guy. So you got your second flower here as well. And they kind of not so much overlap, right? But they're right next to each other. And so I'm just flicking it upwards again. So these nice flicks. And I drew this petal down a little further, so my flower is kind of going over it a little, and that's okay, because it's this nice little floral piece here. So that's just like the base coat. And from here, it's just kind of like the technique I like to call is the messy brush technique. So you're not really cleaning your brush off between each color. You're just picking up more color and adding it to the brush. So I still have some of that pink that we just mixed on my brush. I'm not going to clean it off. And I'm just going to go right in and pick up some white. And I'm just going to flick some white through my little flowers here. I'm picking up more white as I need it, and I'm just flicking it. I'm not blending it in because we want our flower to be have a lot of dimension in it, so you can see all those flicks in those brushes. Okay, so I picked up some white, right? Now I'm going to pick up, I did actually just clean my brush off. I did it without thinking. So I cleaned it off. You can, or you don't have to if you don't want to. And then I'm just going to pick up some orange. Just a little. You don't want a lot because you don't want any of these colors overtaking each other. They're just going to kind of blend and softly flick and give your flower some dimension. So I picked up some orange. I'm just going to flick it. And because the rust is still wet, it's going to blend kind of nice and soft. Just kind of flick wherever you'd like. Just giving it some other color. Again, I just cleaned it off without even thinking. You don't have to clean it off completely, but it's a good idea to keep your brush kind of damp. You don't want it drying out. So now I'm just going in with a little bit of red. I'm just adding a bunch of these colors to these flowers. And I'm just kind of layering some red in here. If you ever go over and you lose, you're like, oh, I added too much of this color, and you feel like you've lost a color, I feel like I might have lost some of my white. I just cleaned my brush off completely, and I'm just going to go back in and add some more white back over all of that. Just flicking some nice colors into our flowers, right? Okay. Now, I'm cleaning my brush off officially. We are going to our last color mixture. Our last color mixture is going to be, starting with the clean paintbrush, the small paintbrush. It's going to be 2 scoops of green, and I'm using my mixing plate, right? 2 scoops of green. 1, 2. Here we go. 2 scoops of green, 2 scoops of yellow, or if you don't have yellow, you can use orange. 2 scoops of orange or yellow. And then a touch of white. Okay, and this should be like a lime, lighter green color. Feel free to add more of any of those colors to each other till you get a color that you're happy with. So this is what mine turned out to be, if you're interested. It's kind of like this mossy green, and this is going to be that leaf color. So now that I've mixed this, I'm going to clean my brush off a little. So I've got a little on here, and it's going to be kind of like the base coat of the leaf. Now when you're doing the leaf, you don't want to paint the whole leaf green. You actually want to leave like a little slit in the middle so that that base color can come through. You also don't have to worry about painting it completely perfect. Leaving some of that base color in will give it a bit of dimension. So, don't feel like, again, that has to be so perfect. Okay, so again, I'm gonna start on the outside of the leaf and just kind of paint inwards. And as I'm coming inwards, I'm gonna leave a little slit in the middle so it has some leafy texture here. And you can still see my red through this green, and that's completely okay. And I just kind of sketchingly sketched it down the stem, and sketchingly is just another word for just kind of messily, I'm not perfectly hiding it, right? The same thing, you do the exact same thing on the other leaf. You leave that little bit in the middle and just kind of sketchingly paint it in. And the other little piece here with the little buds, it's actually not covered. So what I'm actually doing is I'm just going to kind of take a little bit of this green and just kind of sporadically hit the stem, just kind of messily, just to give it a bit of dimension and some color. And maybe do a little color on the little buds, just to give it, some color. Okay? And then with the same color, this green that we just mixed, um he has a couple of like green fluffy fur bits. He has some in his ears. So you can just flick that kind of wherever you're feeling it. He has some, around the cheeks. He does have some on his nose. Or like not on the nose, but around his nose. Down here. Maybe a little down here. And then some in the ear again. Right? And then I'm cleaning my brush off. It does look like there's some other red color as well. And they are red and orange. So I'm just going to double dip in red and orange on my brush at the same time. I'm just going to kind of add some more fur into the ear. Right? And then I'm cleaning my brush off again. And we're almost there. So now that I've added those fancy details, I cleaned my brush off and we're going to add that big white pupil. So you want to make sure that the pupil is in the same spot on both eyes. I'm just adding a big white pupil with a clean small brush. Makes them look much more friendly with those pupils and those light reflectiveness. And then I'm cleaning it off again. So the last step that we're going to be doing is just the splatter paint part. So what we're going to do is you can do splatter in whatever color that you would like, but I'm going to start with orange. So I'm going to take my paper plate here, clean small brush, and I'm just going to scoop like a small scoop of orange on my plate. And then I'm just going to water it down on my plate. So I'm just kind of scooping water with my brush and putting it on here so that there's a nice thin consistency. Should be like kind of like skim milk. You don't want it too runny, but you also don't want it too thick, or it's not going to splatter the way you want to. Now there's a couple of different ways that you can splatter, obviously. I would recommend, if you're not used to splatter paint, maybe practicing like on a paper plate or something. And there's, of course, different ways to do this. The way that I found that I like the splatter effect best, so what I like to do is I like to hold my finger like this, horizontally, and then take my brush and then flick it over my finger like that. When you do the splatter, you kind of want to focus the splatter along the bottom half this way and then along the top half. So you don't want to splatter any directly on the face, just along the top and along the bottom. So I'm taking my watered down orange. I'm going to hold it this way and I'm going to flick my brush like that over my finger. So I'm getting a little on the tummy area, just on the bottom. Another technique is if you lay the canvas down and you flick it, you can use the help of gravity to have that splatter. And it works a little better than doing it in the easel, right? So flicking this that way. And you can always cover up the areas that you don't want. So like if you were really focused on not getting it on the face, you can always cover it. And this is kind of a messier way because you get your hands a little dirty. But I just find that you can control the splatter just a little better. Like I said, feel free to, find what works better for you. So I just did orange. Now I'm going to clean my brush off just a little. Actually, a lot. Make sure it's nice and clean. Still using that small paintbrush. And we're going to do a blue splatter. So just like I did with the orange, I'm going to do a scoop of blue, put it on my plate, and then water that blue down really thin. Kind of like a thin skim milk consistency, right? Don't want it too thick, but you also don't want it too thin because then it'll run on you. So I've got that nice thin blue. If you're doing it the way I was doing it, you may need to clean your finger off of the orange. Okay, and then I'm just taking this watered thin down blue, and again I'm focusing this splatter on the bottom half of my canvas and then the top half. And then you guys are done. And that's your koala painting. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you guys are happy with how your painting turned out. He's a very cute koala. And I hope to see you guys again soon in the next upcoming events. We do have one more week of kids camp. The last week is like nature themed. So we have a lot of cool paintings coming up. Hopefully you come back and join us again. We would love to see your photos. Hopefully you took lots of photos while you were doing this. We'd love to see your smiling faces. If you tag us, #Pinots we will be able to see your paintings, and we would love to see your smiling faces. It'd be super great to see you guys again, see your hard work. But yeah, feel free to sign up, and we'll see you again next week. Thanks, guys.